Hello and welcome to our newest episode of the podcast. My name is Jens and our tech guy Jan is missing today, but we have a very special guest today. My good friend Jackie Aumeyr from Austria, from Vienna. Hello, Jackie. Nice to have you.
Hello. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Jackie, just to make a little presentation who you are for those who don't know you. You have 30 plus years of experience in ice hockey
Yeah.
as an athlete and a coach. That's exciting. And you were playing as an NCAA Division One player. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And
Played the highest level in university and then played what would have been pro at the time in Europe.
and you were a coach for the U18 Austria team, right?
Yeah.
So you have both sides, the athlete side and the coaches side. And the good thing about that one, we will come back to that topic later because ice hockey, if anyone doesn't know, if you don't have good eyes, you won't see anything because that's a very, very fast sport. And I really, really
That's
love
true.
it. You have 13 years of CrossFit experience and you are a CrossFit Level 4 coach. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you are the first female CrossFit Level 4 coach in Europe. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's true. It is true.
Yeah. And you are a seminar staff member for CrossFit Level 1 and Level 2 courses. And I think you are also a mentor for the Global Mentorship Program of CrossFit. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. If you're looking, either they do business mentoring or coaching mentoring, and if you're looking for coaching mentoring, you might find me at the other end of that.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's very, very helpful. Actually, mentoring, we will come back to this one later, maybe. But having a mentor, somebody who guides you to be better in the craft is super, super valuable. So,
Yeah.
and besides that, you were mentoring me as well. So I learned a lot from you. So that was a big step for me to getting better in what I'm doing. So
But let's be clear to all the listeners. Like, not everybody is a great student like you are, and we are very much equals, and it's a pleasure.
oh, thank you very much. So I think that was one of the experiences that I really would like to share with anybody and really recommend to anybody having an external mentor. And but that's not our topic today. And we're still in the presentation. And you have a business in science business with the focus on marketing and a Bachelor of Arts in English. And you are a
Mhm.
singer.
Yeah,
Yeah, you are.
yeah. Every once in a while.
And you worked for CrossFit Vienna for 10 years as a head coach for 700 members, and you were leading 30 coaches, right?
Yeah.
And now you got your own gym. That's CrossFit Jack. Can you tell us where you're located?
So we're in the heart of Vienna, where like Vienna's kind of like a seashell, and there's a little ring around the first part of the seashell, and then there's a little bigger ring, and we're right on that bigger ring at Thalia Strasse. And if you just want to come hang out, throw down, pet some dogs, throw a ball to them, maybe see a child or two, like come on in.
I can tell you guys. So I had the pleasure to be in Vienna for 1 week, and I really love the gym. So that is a really, really nice gym and so welcoming community. So props to that. So did I miss anything about your presentation? I mean, the list is long, eh? So it could.
That was pretty good. There's something that I found like, oh yeah, I do that too. That's nice. No, thank you, Jens,
Yeah,
for
I,
such a
I
warm
I picked
welcome.
some. I picked some more of them. So all right. So we have some different topics today that we want to cover, and maybe we can help some of you guys, some of the viewers, to have some insights, and let's hop into it. I would say.
Yeah, let's do this.
So, what is our first topic is the programming. So maybe I would always say this is the topic that I'm talking about, the most of the time, with the most, ideas and misconceptions. And let's hop into it. And I would like to know something about your knowledge about that. There are different styles of programming, like strength and metcon every day or single workout. So tell us your thoughts about that.
Yeah, it's definitely, especially at the level 2 seminar, I think the question comes on up very often of like, well, can we really just do one thing a day, or can we do this all the time? The very short, simple answer is like, if you always do something, it's wrong. If you never do something, it's wrong. So I think that's where we start. If you've never done an AB style workout, it does normally pop up at the open every year. So to never do it would be wrong. And again, to always do it, I'm not going to say it would be wrong. Let's call it this. It wouldn't be per se CrossFit. And like we at CrossFit Vienna acquired a third location while I was there, and that location was always doing an AB style workout. And they were always doing a light to medium weight Metcon with 4 movements. And I wouldn't bash that and say that they weren't gaining any fitness ever. But I would say they were getting a very specific brand of fitness that only fits AB style workouts with a light to medium weight Metcon with 4 movements. And when we took over and we changed it to a traditional CrossFit application, they were struggling a lot with things outside of what they had been exposed to. But again, I am not the type of person for CrossFit that's like, we are the only way. Those people were still putting their bodies through ranges of motion. And I think a better question is where and when is that style of programming appropriate? Where does it reach its limits? So like, when could AB style programming be really helpful? Like maybe if you have beginners and then in consistent exposure, like, hey, we are going to do squats at the beginning like this. So we just go through a strand cycle, because beginners most likely don't have the technique to support good 1 rep max intensity. If you know what I mean, they're not going to hit per se high intensity in that day. So they need more exposure to be able to actually handle a load that would push the intensity that they need. Or let's say the intensity that's not limited by technique. And so, okay, maybe if they're getting some consistent exposure, but then at some point they do need to go heavy, which will require more time. And then you have people that are maybe in a mid-range where it's like, okay, they can go heavy for themselves, but their heavy weights are maybe somewhere, let's say in the 60 to 100 kilo range. So their build-up time might not actually be that much because the end weight isn't that high, where they maybe can accommodate a true heavy lift in a class. But again, at some point they will need to go heavy if they're going to push those numbers. And then if you're in a competitive situation and you need to try, hey, I have to get this much weight on the bar in this amount of time and hit a workout, it will happen in competition. It's a good training thing, but that's a practice. It's not an everyday practice, because you still need to know what is my end range prior to entering into that situation, especially when you're more advanced. So it can be really helpful for a time to have an A-B structure. If you always do it, there is something you are missing for sure on the strength end, which is kind of what I've been touching on so far. Because if let's go in the direction of true heavy lifting, things that are going to be Olympic weightlifting, powerlifting. Powerlifters' sessions are long. They have hours for one session, and they're maybe going to accomplish 12 lifts. But they understand the time it takes to get up to that weight, the time it takes in between reps to sustain an effort and to increase. And so it's like, I think a lot of people on the weight side, and by people now I'm going to transition into talking about coaching, heavy days are very hard for coaches that don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
If you don't know how to fill an hour, and I really want to talk to you about intensity at some point in this conversation, where it's like, if you've administered a heavy day well, let's go very generic. Let's say you have a 5x5 heavy back squat day. if your people don't feel super taxed by the end of that, and they really need a Metcon, it means we should look at how that was administered, because that can fill an hour video. And I think if you don't know how to fill that time, you either fill it with more working out, or people don't actually go heavy and you didn't accomplish the task. So that's kind of like on the A part of it. Let alone, we haven't even talked about how well people are doing it in Metcon. And the questions then would be, how technical are your Metcons? Like if you're doing, let's say, assault bike and burpees every time at the end, per se, you wouldn't need so much coaching to get into that. But if you're really having more Metcons and you're never fresh to hit it 100%, you are losing out on the stimulus there and skill set with that, and probably on the skill sets of all the finer points of all the movements involved. And like for this box that we acquired, this third one, I had worked there before we purchased it. And when everybody kind of says, oh, it doesn't work that way, like the owners of that box and I, we went to a weightlifting seminar together. And after that seminar, I would say it was their box's best programming. For 1 month, they finally started not to do AV every day. Almost every member PR'd in that month.
Yeah.
So,
Surprise.
like, yeah, surprise, when you gave them time and space, they did something really cool. And so I think you should go in and out of that. And I definitely get that there's a question of how good are your coaches. And if you're listening to this and you're at the top of that tree going, I can't administer a heavy day well, or I don't think a heavy day can fill the hour, it needs to start with you.
Yeah.
Because that's got to start top down.
Yeah, and I would add that we also know that a good programming is a programming that works. So do your people get fitter? Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Whenever everything you do, you will get fitter. And it's not even about, I think, about saying which one is better or worse.
Yeah.
So I would argue that there are advantages, pros and cons for both of them. And I would always consider a good programming, a programming that allows me as a coach to do my job, right? So if I had the time to, teach the mechanics, see the faults and correct them in a proper manner, then that's for me as a coach easier to handle, and I think as a big advantage for the people. But as you say, I mean, whenever you plan on do the open, or you plan on doing a competition, it's always, there can be an A and B part. And, when sometimes you have a Metcon and then you have a strength part as well, right? So nature doesn't respect the order of anything. And that's the beauty of CrossFit and the beauty of programming. But I'm very, very happy that we can talk a little bit about that, because there's always, it's like a political party. The Republicans and the Democrats.
Yeah.
Hey, we are the good ones and you are the bad ones. It's not like that, right? And CrossFit is so beautiful. It's so much of a variety that we have, right?
And I liked it because I ended up needing to correct my words earlier on, where it's like, I would very rarely say right and wrong, where it's like, hey, what is the traditional administration of CrossFit? What is something that has CrossFit-like aspects, but maybe isn't an implementation as we would recommend it? And that's totally fine. It's not to say that that won't get results in some fashion. And especially if you're a box owner, I think it's really important to know your community as well. Like I've had many discussions with many different box owners with, hey, what is the average amount of time your customers come in per week? And some people say, hey, it's 2, some say it's 3. And it's like, well, are you programming for 2 days a week, or are you programming for 3 days a week of exposure? And so, I've seen people come up with different answers to different things, and I would not begrudge anybody that has clients that come in 1 or 2 times a week on average, and they need to program for that, versus somebody who is coming and getting a 3 to 4 time exposure during the week, where variance can look a little different when you're having that too. So And that's also comes from knowing your community. And that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the community that is built by the owner, by the head coach, and whatever you think that works fine for you and people are come happy to your place, then you did a lot of good job, right? So,
Yes.
and I can tell that whenever I come to another gym like I did at your gym, I can feel the positive vibe, and that is
Right.
also people love to come to that place. It's not only, of course, it's not only the programming, but if people like what they do it the right way, right?
That's it. I'm gonna you had me until the last second. Like in general, I'll say yes. I would say for us as the professionals, people would be happy with much less than what we give them to. And it's up to us to keep a very high quality product. And by the way, like from what I've seen interacting with lots of coaches, I think a much smaller percentage of coaches actually know what a well coached hour looks like. And that's where I have hesitation saying yes to the last statement, because you can have, so if you're, let's go traditional CrossFit, if we're going by the criteria of an effective coach. In the level 2 guide, we had teaching, seeing, correcting, group management, presence and attitude, and demonstration. You can have somebody who has phenomenal presence and attitude and is absolutely garbage at teaching, and people will have a great time. Yeah, because they just had a good time. And so I would say, yes, you want people to be happy with your product. I would also like this came to my mind. I'm willing to debate this, but I'm curious your thought on it. I think if you're doing, let's say, a classic CrossFit implementation, you will probably upset somebody with your programming at least every once in a while, because everybody has something that they don't like to do. And if everybody's happy all the time or like loves every workout, then I might be like, we probably didn't touch on your weakness, did we?
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
it makes absolutely sense. And I always tell people
Yeah.
that whenever you don't like something, it's not because it's not good. It's maybe the thing that you need the most, right? And of course, when there's this classic question, how many times do you train a week, and how much does the program affect that one? If you train 3 times, 4 times, 5 times a week, it may differ a lot. So, but if you have 3 times that you can spend an hour at a gym, you should maybe look for a day that you really like, a day that you really don't like, and maybe a heavy day. I mean, if you have to select, then that
Yeah.
would be my recommendation. So also do something out of your comfort zone.
Oh,
That,
yes.
that's what
Preach,
helps
Jens.
you a
Preach. Yeah, it will. Like so much more benefit, unfortunately.
lot. So, all right. Let's hop to
But
the
I,
next.
I would like to ask you something building off of that,
Yes, please.
because I think people don't have a clear idea of high intensity. I think people only get the idea of high intensity when they're doing a Metcon. And I think they know what high intensity is there. So I was wondering how you explain high intensity to people, and how that relates to every different style of workout that we encounter.
So I can explain it in a different way. So the most theoretical way would be force times distance divided by time, right? But that doesn't help anybody that's not into the CrossFit world. We are talking about large loads over long distance quickly. So something about the weight that you're moving, the distance that you're moving yourself or the weights, and the time that you need to do so, right? So intensity is something, it is it is defined by the work, the the weight that you're moving. So the heavier the weight, the more intense it gets. The faster you do something, the more intense it gets, right? But there's this misconception maybe that you have to, lay on the floor, have a near-death experience, and that's a high intensity. Um, but let's say high intensity and maximum intensity is always a difference, right? So whenever you go
Yeah.
to the gym and there is a 5x5 back squat and you really have every single set you hit, the last rep is really, really hard. That is high intensity, you know. And the intensity is always, relative to your psychological and physiological tolerances. So the physiological tolerance is the ability to move something, or your VO2 max, or your ability, your fitness, your actual state of fitness. The psychological tolerance is maybe the mood of the day, right? Did you sleep?
Yeah.
And that can be different, but what I always try to, to break it down a little bit more simple is you go to the gym, you try to do what is best for you today, and you will still, be around your sweet spot. And after you go out, you will be motivated to come back the next day. That's maybe something that we can communicate to the people, so they think, okay, I don't have to be smashed down every single day that I go to the gym.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I totally agree. No, I agree with that. And that's where I think people only see the Metcon as like I'm smashed. I was a pile of sweat sizzling on the floor. That's intensity. And if they don't get that exact feeling, they're like, well, I wasn't intense today. And you're like, well, that feeling is different in different disciplines.
Mhm.
And I love what you said. Hey, the last rep should be really hard. And it's kind of like on a heavy day, it's like, well, you look at the bar and you're like, I don't think I want to touch that. And like on a 5x5, you pick it up and you're like, you probably swear a little in your head and you're like, this is heavy. And you're like, "Ah!" like, and you go on like this. And if you want to put the bar down for like, can I please have a 2 to 3 minute rest after that? Yeah. Like
Yeah.
getting somebody to that is very hard. And especially if they're limited elsewhere in their technique, where their technique doesn't warrant a weight that puts them there, then your scaling has to match to how do I make sure somebody feels like that in the set? But that should be it. And yeah, that it's not a beat down. And I think I love how you were touching on it's both psychological and physiological. Like if you just show up and you genuinely try your best, like just try to have your best rep every rep, even if it's garbage that day. Um, you're gonna get something special and you're gonna hit that sweet spot. And I mean this is a total side comment. Like I'm so like I don't wear anything on me. I don't have my measurements often. Like I'll go through like a month per year where I'll measure things because numbers are important. But so many people, I didn't get a good sleep today. I couldn't possibly do well. And it's like, think about all the days you thought like I couldn't do this and you went in and you had a great workout. You know, those things don't necessarily have to limit you. They might be things like, hey, yeah, I notice every time this happens, I'm not doing so great. Okay, I might not expect the world today, but it's like if you just go in and give it your all relative to where you're at, you're gonna be just fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I that's beautiful. And I want to add that I think it was about maybe a year or 2 years ago, I had a nice live call with Pat Sherwood, and he did a very nice comment. He said, look at your fitness as a wall built of, stones. There are bigger stones, there are smaller stones, and the bigger stones are the workouts, you really you crushed it and you felt very well. And the other day you came back and you said, I'm not that good today. That's maybe the smaller stone, but still, even the smaller stones built that wall. And it's the balance of everything. So hitting high intensity is good, but I always argue that even if you do a mediocre workout, it's still better than no workout.
It is. And to realize that a mediocre workout was still your high intensity for that day.
Yeah. Yeah. That
Understanding that is part of the process.
that was
And I think sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, that was maybe your threshold for today. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And I love that you said you'll be excited to come back after. I think on a little bit of an off topic where it's like so many people think, oh, you're you're highly motivated every day. And it's like most people aren't highly motivated every day. Some people are better or worse at the habit. But I think if you have the ability to look at the end feeling, always know afterwards I'm happy. So I can't focus on my feelings before because they might lie to me. They
Yeah.
might say,
And,
no.
and beforehand, when I introduced you, you were a professional ice hockey player. So tell us about that, because ice hockey is a very intense sport. But how was your training regimen? I mean, it was really hard, but did you go 100% every single day, or how was that?
I, yes. I mean, in all honesty, our training was very CrossFitty because ice hockey is such a beauty. I mean, I can fangirl about this sport for a very long time. But it requires such an interesting balance of skills that we did have a need to lift heavy. We did have a need to do short and quick. We have these various needs. So the training had an element of this variance to it, which also helps, very similar to the conjugate method, allows you to go hard each time. I would say, I think for me personally, and I know sometimes I was a little like, I was somebody who loved practicing too. And I know not everybody loved practicing, but it was like within the drills, I was always trying to do 110%. But it's also the practices are structured where it's like, okay, these are the drills you're doing. But there are times that are meant, hey, we're stopping, we're doing positioning here,
Mm-hmm.
where there is no possibility to go and be intense. It's simply a run kick, or the rest time is so long where it's like, hey, we might work on what is called special teams. So if somebody does something wrong and gets a penalty, one team has one more player than the other, you would practice what you do in those situations. But that usually means you're sitting and watching for a bit of time before you try it. So there would be some checks and balances to prevent us going so hard that way. And then it would also come like, and this would be something also for a much more in-depth programming chat, which is like in-season training versus out-of-season training. And this is where hey, my game times in the week are max output intensity. Whatever the max output I can achieve is going to happen there. So there usually is some of this in your week leading up to it that you can do that. And that usually comes with the time of practice, the type of drills selected, things like this to create that way that you are peaking each week. And you're most likely not PRing the other stuff in the gym during that time. You feel up in postseason, you're maintaining there and you're hitting your PIs and your gains.
Yeah. And that even brings us back to, the original topic of CrossFit, because you don't max out every day. It always goes in waves, and it's such a natural way, because most of us, we don't train 5, 6 days a week, maybe three,
Yeah.
4 times, or at the most maybe 5 times. So and that is super exciting, because for later we have another topic that brings me, because of the practice time that you just mentioned. So our next topic I would like to cover is dealing with difficult members, and that was your original idea, and I'm so excited to hear what you're talking about and what you have to tell us, and maybe we can learn something about that. See.
I love creating compliance. But I'll say the biggest key to anybody out there, the better you are at your job, the easier it is to create compliance with how you'd like people to do the workout. And so like coming back to those 6 criteria that I talked about a little earlier, teaching, seeing, correcting, group management, presence and attitude, and demonstration. The better you are at each one of those, the clearer picture you create of class. And it also makes it stand out more when somebody wants to be outside your picture. And let's take something like seeing and correcting. Let's say if I'm seeing and correcting really well, I'm probably going to be looking at one person in the rep, but then looking at anywhere from 1 to 3 people when they're standing. But that means I should be talking to 4 people roughly every repetition, which means I should be saying everybody's name pretty frequently. So there shouldn't be the opportunity to say, well, you only say that to me, or you never said that to me. It means I also am seeing everybody so that any problem should be prevented way sooner.
Mhm.
And that we're starting, you can think of it as a conversation, even though it's less back and forth. I'm starting a conversation in that athlete's mind of my opinion of your movement. Good, same, or better, same, worse. How do I want you to do it? And that will help a later conversation in class if you need to have it. Teaching, like if you've really structured your teaching well, every athlete is going to be appropriately challenged, including your advanced ones. So there's kind of two people that are difficult cases. The one we see a little bit more of, or let's say is a little more, let's call it dangerous for lack of better words at the moment, is people that want to go too far.
Mhm.
And then there are the other people that want to do too little. And, with them, you can kind of, hey, what you're doing really great, don't you? It's pain-free today, right? Yeah, my God, great, this far. Hey, you did that weight this many times. I love it. 2 kilos more. If it looks bad, we can go back, but you look great at this step. You're doing everything I asked you to do. So that can really build the people up that need it. But it's like, if you've really structured your teaching well, the advanced athletes know when they're not doing it. And then there are people where it's like, no matter how many times history has proven them that they are not an RX athlete, they just come and think they're like, I'm an RX athlete. That's great. And this is where I think you're being professional, and then you can use that to tell people exactly what you expect of the workout. Where I'll say, hey guys, this set should feel like this. These rounds should feel like that. And I'll give them a bit of responsibility. I'm a big fan of giving people some responsibility without them. I'll come back to the statement of coach, I just want to shut off and do work in the moment.
Mhm.
But responsibility in the sense, I'll give them the chance to have a workout where I don't correct them if they do it right. So let's take push-ups, for example, because I hate ugly push-ups.
I know that this
Like,
was
let's say we've
coming.
done a really, yeah, it's just, they annoy me so much. And let's say we've done a beautiful push-up warm-up, and I'm like, hey guys, your first push-up is going to look like this. Your last push-up will look like, but they should all look the same. Aside from a bit of shaking, aside from the speed, they should look the same. And I was like, if you do it differently, I will get this close to you. This is Jack. Where do we stand on swearing in this podcast? I'll censor this. I'll say, hey, what the F is this? And I'll do it like this, but it's like, hey, if you're doing, what I'm telling them is, if you do it well, I can be your biggest cheerleader. I'll be your best DJ. But if your movement needs work, I will tell you about it. And so I'm giving you the option. We've practiced it. You know the standard. If you adhere to it, I don't have to talk to you like that. But I will come. And most times if I tell people, I'm like, they'll be like, I know. And I'm like, well, if you know and I know, do it right. And that can also really help later. Like, you'll be surprised. People will be really honest. You watch, you're like, athletes, they've gone through the workout like a train wreck, and you've said there, and you need to do it. You need to say their name. You need to not give up on them. And I understand that's hard. And it's totally okay if you need a break. It's totally okay if you need to go around to other people. But you need to do your job and say their name multiple times, even though it just bounces off of them. Because then you get to go to them afterwards and you're like, hey, like, did you do this? Let's say we did something like we have double kettlebell front rack squats, and you ask their elbows to not touch their legs, for a safety concern. Hey, you have to be able to support it in this way the whole workout. You have somebody, their elbows are caving, their back is rounding, and you're like, oh my God. And you're not to the point where you're ready to take their weight away from them to have that type of interaction. And at the end you say like, hey, did you keep your elbows above your knees? Most people are actually pretty aware, and they'll go, oh no. And you're like, well, what did I ask you? Well, you asked me to do that. And it's like, okay, how many times did I say your name? Well, you said my name about 10 times. Okay, so I did my job. You're not upholding your end of this bargain. And I think you can give people that responsibility very freely. I know other trainers who have called it out in public and like, hey, why do you feel it's okay to treat me like this? And and the athlete's like, what? And they're like, I'm doing my job and you're blatantly disregarding this. why, and that will really set people up. I know loving ways to do this. I know people who will pair members up and have one try to be the role model for the other, so it puts them in a light where they want to be good and then want to do stuff like that. So there's really loving ways to do these things. There's gentle ways before you have a really harsh conversation with somebody. Hopefully you can have fun. Like normally if I'm not happy with somebody, we can still have fun with it. But I've definitely gotten to the point with some athletes where I'm like, you have to come approve your weights with me all the time
Yeah.
before the workout, where I'm like, if I haven't talked to you, I'm not starting the clock, or whatever needs to happen. And, and there is a time and a place. If somebody's in competition mode and they can only hear no rep, great, I'll tell you no rep. And they'll be, coach, it was a rep. I'm like, no, it's not a rep. Not until you do it this way. And I'm not somebody, there comes a point when if you think the safety issue is too much, and I understand this is not for everybody, not everybody's feels as like way or is ready to do that, where it's like, I will take your weight off your bar. I will move something. I will physically stop this. And that is a very uncomfortable situation. Hopefully all the other tactics can prevent that. And if you hit that, if you're not the owner of the gym, hopefully you have the support of your owner. Like when I wasn't the owner of the gym, I knew I had the support of the owner to make the choices that I wanted to make in class, and to be like, this is a coached environment. And I would say this is the bottom line. It's a coached environment.
Yeah.
If you don't wish to be in a coached environment, don't show up to one.
Yeah. And I think it's so beautiful that the way you express it. And I would add two things about it, because there's so many different way of handling difficult situations like that. And for example, I would give the one of our workouts for this week is 8 rounds of 3 hang clean and jerks at a pretty high weight, and some air bike or row. So, and
Cool.
let's just imagine that there's a guy, he says, hey, I want to hit RX. And I would say, nah, I think that could be a little bit too heavy for you. So, to have it a little bit like an elegant way, I would always try to, not like you say, make them responsible, let them make decisions as well. So I would say, hey, the first 4 rounds, you will do it the way I tell you. All right. And then if it's still too light for you, you can do the second 4 rounds with your way. Guess what happens after the first 4 rounds? Maybe nothing. And
Yeah.
it's about building trust, right?
Yes.
And whenever you have somebody very motivated, that's positive. I love that. But really, sometimes people don't have that objective point of view like the coach has.
Yeah.
And if the stimulus of the workout isn't hit anymore, it's not acceptable. And that's the second thing that I would like to mention is the whiteboard briefing. I'm a big fan of a good whiteboard briefing. You can cover so many good stuff within 3 minutes or less. And if you tell them, the non-negotiables for today, then and you hit the expectation of the workout, they will still say, hey, he just said it at the whiteboard. So, and that helps a lot, I think.
I totally agree with you. Like, I think a really good whiteboard brief, and I think you do it as well, like where we brief at the beginning of class and you also brief a bit through class and right before, to be like, hey, we're just reinforcing this is what it should be. And I really like what you said. It's about relationship building. And the question is how good are you? How quickly can you do this with somebody? And I think a springboard from that, kind of pairing it with something I said earlier, is please, like if you're a coach, listeners, please do not fall into the pitfall. I know them, they just can't. Or I've said that to them 1,000 times. Then say it to them 1,001 time. Because at some point, if you are consistent with this, they will have to come along with you.
Yes.
I promise you, I've not been proven wrong on this yet. 14 years into this, and it still hasn't proven me wrong yet. If you just stay with it, they will come along and they will at some point seek your advice. They will want your approval. And when you say that was a good rep, it will mean so much more to them. But if you're changing your process to this, that does mean there will be an uncomfortable period.
Yeah.
Um,
And
yeah.
even as a coach, you can be wrong, and then you can still admit, hey,
Yeah.
I could have given you a little bit more weight or whatever, but it's not the end of
Yeah.
the world, right? We all make mistakes, but I think the better we know the athletes, the more trust we build, the better the relationship, and the better you hit the intended stimulus for most of the athletes, right? And that's the beauty of it, and I really really love it. I think this is something that maybe some coaches are missing, that this is, you have to do it RX or you're not here, or whatever,
Yeah.
that's
No. And I think you've touched on something. I know in some phases people say, like, never admit you were wrong. It's totally okay. Hey, you actually did this well. I think you can handle more next time.
yeah
Like, I think it's totally okay to say you could have done that day differently, or you will do it differently them in the future for X, Y, Z. But
yeah
that is also a piece of the trust. Oh, coach knows this. They did hear me. They did resonate. My feeling was this, and they just confirmed, or, you know,
and it's
didn't
totally
confirm.
fine. It's building trust, right?
Yeah.
So cool. I mean, this is a topic that we can spend hours
Yeah.
talking, and there are so many. We are humans, and this is,
Yeah.
sometimes situations are difficult, and it's a human interaction. And whenever
Yeah.
somebody had a bad day, and that's also fine. As long as people walk out of the gym and they have a smile on their face, and you can say, "Hey, Jackie, when do you come back to the gym?" and they have an
Yeah.
answer for that, that's huge, right?
Yeah. It's heartwarming. Mm.
Yes. So, and there's another one that we have.
Yeah. We're talking about complex movements.
Yes, and I'm super happy to hit that topic, because you just had mentioned whenever you trained for ice hockey, you had practice time, and that is a very important thing that we would like to talk about, because CrossFit, it utilizes complex movements. Let's say squat snatch, or a ring muscle up, or a handstand walk. And there are so many people that they would argue, "Hey, I can never do that, and I would like to have something more easy, something more
Yeah.
simple." But what is what is the big value of utilizing complex movement? And I always argue with, whenever you get older, some older people, they play Sudoku, or they learn to
Yeah.
play the piano, because I think of the bottom of my heart that the human brain is made for learning new stuff.
Oh,
Whenever
it's
we're
beautiful.
kids, we learn to walk. Then we learn to ride the bicycle, or swim, or whatever. That doesn't stop by, being an adult. Learning new
Yeah.
stuff is very, very valuable. It's not only the training and the muscles that we are using, it's the neurological effect that all this has. And that's why I'm
Yes.
such a big fan of complex movements, and it should be part of a training regimen. What are
Yes.
your thoughts about that?
Yeah. So one thing you will hear if you're at the seminars, and it takes a really small backseat to some much more like bigger items that we need to cover. But it's like, let's change the term complex to just even functional movements at the moment. Um, we use them because we get a much larger neurosystemic response. So not only are you getting a response in your tissues and things like that, but like your brain lights up way differently when you use complex movements, functional movements. And it is there's if you're diving into things like Z health or neuroscience and stuff like this, there's a ton of benefit from having your brain light up, from learning new stuff, from learning things like this. Same as there's some cool studies about like playing classical music for weightlifting because of the complexity of the music and the way it helps people sequence. There's some stuff out there like that. But the really short answer, it's very good for your brain for you to do movements like this. And when complex movements say, hey, we're taking a bunch of different systems and teaching them how to work together. And what we've learned is when they learn how to work together, they also work better individually.
Yeah.
And so this is why we tend to stick with them. They also tend to be things that you see in everyday life. So let's go into Olympic lifting, because I think there's a few things in there that are really common talking points where it's like, hey, should people Olympic lift at all? And a lot of coaches will stay away because like that's very complex and we don't need to do that with them. But we do elements of Olympic lifting often where we transfer a little bit of power from from lower body to upper body to move something. Whether we're moving a box and we're trying to get it up higher, we're trying to put luggage in the overhead bin. There is some sequence there, which let's say most people will probably really benefit from a hang power clean. You get the baseline transfer, you get the baseline timing, get stuff like this. But I do hear often like, do people need to snatch? Because snatching would be a little less natural. It's taking those skills and expanding them into larger ranges of motion and things like that. And for me, the answer I would give in a classic CrossFit thing is, hey, I would love somebody to at least work on their overhead mobility from time to time. And maybe you never know which movement will motivate somebody to get better. So if you take it off the menu, they're never going to try for it. That being said, would I recognize, will somebody have a worse life if they never tried to snatch? Probably not. They'll probably also be okay. So I understand when people tend to shy away from some things. I again think if you're a good coach, you don't need to. But I think at the core, you should have some sort of complex movements. And I would put the deadlift, the squat, the amount of musculature the squat uses is utterly phenomenal. Put those in the category of complex movements. Learn to do these things well because even though they seem like they're at the end of the line, they are very much at the center of the buffet that we use in daily life.
But just imagine what all those complex movements do to the people. Let me give you an example, because last Friday we had a heavy day snatch, and I had a lady. She's in her, I think, early 50, mid 50s, and she was, when she came to our gym for the first time, she was a little bit scared, and she said, "Oh, you doing all those complex stuff? I cannot do that, and maybe I'm too old for that." And I told her, "Look, you are never too old, and I got you. I will lead you through that." And now she's being at our gym, I think 1.5, 2 years. So coming back to that heavy day squat snatch, she did a full squat snatch with locked elbows and squatting to full depth. And I was standing there and said, "Ah, man." I mean, I had goosebumps, and still have goosebumps just thinking about it, because the look on her face, she was so happy she could do that. She did it with the technique bar. So not a large load, but it's not about the load. It is the movement. Man, I was so stoked, and I was so happy for her, and I could see it on her face how happy she was. And that is the true value also, that you can do those things and you learn it, and it feels so good when you learn it. Whenever you learn to play the piano, and first, you use one finger, two fingers, and all the, by the time you're getting better, it sounds right. That is fun. I mean,
and I want to make sure that there's another compliment that should not be overlooked in this scenario, which is you did a great job coaching. Because touching on topics that we've talked about previously, you created a relationship of trust with her. And if you've coached well, people are open to trying the movements and they progress appropriately and safely. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that's not something that just happens by luck or by this. I really want to make sure people know that you did a great job on the other end of that, facilitating that success, because it really can be such a wonderful pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, but to understand that we're the weavers of that rainbow.
Yeah, and you have to be patient, to get step by step in small baby steps. And maybe you will just, first you will learn how to deadlift
Yeah.
the PVC pipe, and but it is, I think, just to cover that topic, it is always worth it, because there's
Yeah.
such a huge value in complex movements. Even if you think that you will never do it like an Olympic weightlifter or like a gymnastic, it doesn't matter. It's still, even, another example is the ring muscle transition, with your feet on the
Yeah.
floor. It makes so much, and I remember when I was at your gym one day we had the wall ball and ring muscle up workout. And there was a gentleman, and he was struggling at the beginning, and I think it was a 12-minute workout. And by mid-range, he was doing better and better. And it's, you're getting there, and it's such a great feeling for both ends, right? For the coach and the athlete.
Yeah. And and it's so good for longevity, those items. And if you do want to get into like the neurological side and the ways your brain interacts with the world, and there's 3 primary ways, like those complex movements will train those ways. So like, let's say if you're somebody who doesn't like the feeling of being on roller coasters, there's probably something about, the elevation change to speed, a direction that your brain doesn't like.
Yeah.
That you can chip away on how well does how does your brain see itself in space? There's things like this. How does your inner ear system work? All these really, really detailed topics can be, you can check the boxes in really
Mm.
very easy ways. Come
Yeah.
to the gym, do these movements, and you're going to get everything you need. It's like eating a well-rounded meal. You're going to get all the nutrients you need if you just, just go with it. It's fine.
Right. Right. So we're getting almost at the end of our chat. We could chat maybe, I think, of
I know.
a few hours more. It's for totally fine, but I think, but there's one more thing that I think it's something that we both have to answer a question.
All right.
The question is, one thing that we want to say to, the coaches or the community, or something that we would like to let them know. Is there something that you have in mind?
There is. There's so many things, but actually I said I would come back to it and I didn't. So I guess I'll come back to it now. Something from the athlete side, from the coach's side. People coming in and saying, "Hey, I just want to come in and switch off and do my workout." From the, that's like coming in, let's not say from the, that's like coming in and saying, "Coach, I want to turn off all the lights in this room. That's all I want to do. I've had my lights on all day. I just want a dark room." And the truth is we can't turn off every light. It's just not possible. But if you're doing a great job as a coach, what you can do is you can create a spotlight. You can say, "Hey, just do this movement this way." And you can leave out all the rest. But if the athlete, and I apologize for the wording, I call it a fuck it rep. And the guy's like, "Fuck it. I just need to do this rep any way possible." Please avoid those reps, because that's like, as soon as you say that, you're turning in all the lights in the room and say, "I could do this rep any way possible." And that's when things go wrong.
Yeah.
So I would recommend for everybody to try to work towards the spotlight. And beyond that, like, please continue to enjoy and spread the love of being with other people, away from your phones, and doing something together. This is priceless. And it's something to be cherished and not lost. So if we can keep doing this, it's going to be a great thing.
That sounds great. And I think I have something pretty similar like you have. It sounds like we have a very similar opinion about different stuff. I would say, to keep it short, trust the methodology and the process, and be patient.
Mm.
So I think the methodology that we're using is phenomenal. I mean, there's so many good sports out there, and I love and live CrossFit, and I trust the methodology 100%, because I have been seeing so great results. So I think the only thing that is missing sometimes is the patience. We humans, we are not, a species famous for being patient. Let's put it like this. But whenever you are patient, you will have great results. And yeah, that's what I want to tell them.
Love it, man.
Cool. So, Jackie, we're at the end, and it was beautiful chatting with you. I would
Always a pleasure.
I would also argue that maybe the viewers, if you have any questions, any
Yeah,
topics that you want to have covered, or even more than that, if you want Jackie to come back to a next another episode, please let us know. I will make it. I will try to make it possible. And it's
definitely.
thank you for your time, Jackie, and
Likewise.
I hope you had a great time, and it was super nice chatting with you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jens.
All right.